It's time.
I
Here we
love
are.
it.
Yeah.
I'm Steve Nielsen.
I'm Jasmin Garcia.
Love it. There's the introduction right there.
Yes.
I'm so happy we're doing this. We're taking 30 minutes here to sort of dive into not just the day's news, but a little bit past that too. The things that there are so many times, Jasmin, you know this. We get a minute and 30.
Yeah.
And if we do a minute 32, I have to have a conversation with our 5 p.m. producer, Dennis, and it's like a whole thing. So
Groveling.
So much groveling. Brownies need to be made for apologies.
Yeah.
Typically a tiki bar presentation for Dennis. He loves his
A
tiki
drink
bar.
on the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I'm so happy we're doing this together because Jasmin, you are, I believe the title managing editor. Is
That's
that correct?
my title. Yes.
So
AKA the chaos coordinator. Because I keep all of you in line.
you've got that placard right on the
Yeah.
front of the desk.
Yeah.
And I love that because you know every single thing that happens in our building.
I tried to.
Every single piece of news that comes in, it goes through
Mhm.
your email, through your desk. You then
Disperse
disperse that information to all of us. So you know at least a little bit about everything.
a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
But the fun part about this for me is you know a lot more in depth of this things than I do. So I'm excited to chat and learn and keep our conversations going that we have in the newsroom.
Only the boring things, though. The boring things I love.
But you make them exciting, so then I'm interested in learning more. Otherwise, I'm like, wah, wah.
We can't just keep complimenting each other like this.
Okay.
I'm not used to that. I feel
Yeah.
like we need to be more cynical than this.
Be better.
Yeah. So let's go over a little bit of the day's
Yeah.
news. What are the things that our viewers are really diving into?
Right now, we have 3 trending stories. Measles. There was measles at Sky Harbor on June 10th.
So that was, I want to say the hours was around 5 o'clock, right?
In the evening, yeah. I think it was between 5 and 10.
So what's interesting is my father-in-law flew through Sky Harbor. I picked him up at the airport at that time.
Oh,
He was Terminal 3, not Terminal 4,
it was
though.
4, yeah.
So
Yeah.
my wife and I immediately like, wait, what terminal did you pick him up at? So we immediately had questions. But I think there's a lot of people that were like me that just like panicked immediately.
Yeah.
Like, hold on, what does this
Yeah.
mean? And what does it actually mean to be exposed in the
Right.
airport, right? Just because
Yeah.
someone's 10 gates away from you with something.
Yeah.
So-
And a lot of people freaked out as soon as they saw the headline. But if you're vaccinated, you're clear. It depends on your age a lot.
Mhm.
And how close you were to the person. You literally had to be within a certain vicinity, they
Yeah.
said, to like get exposed.
That's
You-
good.
Yeah. So hopefully
Mhm.
you're safe.
Yes.
But it is concerning because I have a 1-year-old, and so people, especially with kids, get nervous. They can't get the vaccine
Mhm.
until they're 1.
Mhm.
So a lot of people talking about it. A lot of older people, my mom,
Yeah.
my family. So definitely a talker.
What else?
We've got your story that you worked on earlier this week, and some last week, and it's been trending for 2 days now on our website. So tell us more about the Shalimar Golf Course.
I love this. There's an implication there that it's because I did it, and I appreciate that. We'll keep the compliments
Good
going
story.
here.
You just happen to be assigned.
No, yeah. So Shalimar, great golf course. My son learned how to play golf there. I used to play there back in college. 9 holes, awesome place. They had to close. The owner of the Neuheisels, everybody knows the Neuheisels. It's Rick Neuheisel, the head coach at UCLA. So it's his parents
Okay.
that own that golf course.
Nice.
They said they just ran out of money. The thing loses. It costs them well over $1 million a year to run that place. They
Wow.
don't make anywhere close to that. So they closed it. They're selling to developers. It's inland land. So people want to build houses there,
Yeah.
trying to build 244 units. The issue is they shut the water off as they're going through the sale procedure.
Mm.
So you got a lot of dead fish there. The trees are dying. The grass is dying.
I'm looking at our headline. It says brown, smelly, sad.
Ugh, you don't want those descriptions in your
No.
backyard.
No.
That's brutal. You can empathize with them. So I talked
Yeah.
with Jay Neuheisel. She empathized with them, but she said it's going to cost her $30,000 a month to turn on the water. There's no income coming in. The course is closed.
That's not chump change.
So she can't do it.
No.
So I don't know if there's really a solution there. I think
That
it's just,
sucks.
that's just a
That
tough
sucks.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I wanted to talk to you about, real quick, we talked about the boring news that I love.
Mhm.
This is boring news that I love. Semicon West.
Yeah.
This is a convention for the semiconductor industry. They have decided to open up shop and have the Semicon West open up at the Phoenix Convention Center
Mhm.
on October 7th through 9th. You might be thinking, why do I care?
Yeah, tell me.
This is a classic thing in the morning. You're always just like, why should I care about this story?
Tell me.
This shows how huge Arizona is on the scene here with semiconductors. The fact that this is not happening in Taiwan. This is happening here in Phoenix, not just anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's Phoenix. They have 700 semiconductor companies that have already signed up. 286 are on a waiting list right now to be a part of this.
So what's our allure? Why Phoenix, Steve?
TSMC. That was the big thing. When we got TSMC here, that changed everything. And then now over, and people have different opinions on whether or not it was Trump, whether it was Biden, whether it was trade pressure, all these things. But regardless, I mean, they have, I think from their original investment now quadrupled and quadrupled and quadrupled again how much they're investing, hundreds of billions of dollars now that they're putting into this thing. And then you got Intel going on here, a million different companies. So they've been doing a great job.
So it's not just beneficial to them, it's beneficial to us.
Yes.
Economically,
because
all sorts of things, jobs. Yeah.
It's jobs.
Okay.
And it's really good jobs too. And they're doing the training at MCC. They're doing training at ASU for these jobs. So if you're interested in them, 6-figure jobs, you can do it.
Well, yeah, to be on a 200-person wait list, that's intense.
Yeah. Company wait list, 200 company wait list. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Really excited for this first edition of, I don't know what we want to name this, Jasmin. The Fox 10 Talk, Steve and Jasmin take over the world conversation.
Probably the soon-to-be best Fox 10 Talk.
There you go. That's the kind of energy I want here right now. We have Patrick Bray joining us. You're with the Arizona Farm and Ranch Group.
Yes, sir.
So many things to talk about. I first wanted just to understand. So you guys are basically a lobbyist group. Is that how I would refer to you guys?
Yeah, we are rifle focused on policy that affects the agricultural industry in the state. And we represent everything from livestock producers, row crop guys, irrigation districts, equipment guys, anything that really has to do with agriculture. And that's our primary focus.
Such a huge thing to focus on right now.
Oh, yes.
Because the farm industry is really struggling in Arizona right now, and it is a huge part of what makes our state our state.
Yes.
First, talking Colorado River water. We got the cap negotiations going on right now. Arizona, we've got the junior water rights, which I've always felt is just an incredibly rude way to refer to it. We already struggle with little brother syndrome with California, and now they got senior water rights and we got junior water rights. How glued in are farmers on these negotiations?
Oh, 110%. I mean, we've already felt the effects of shortages far before any residential individuals will feel it. It started clear back in 2019 when we did the first drought contingency plan to kind of start, saving the river, saving Lake Mead and all that. So we were at the forefront of it. And the Pinal County farmers, I mean, they took 70,000 acre cut. And it meant it was real cuts. I mean, if you go down there and look at the land that was farmed prior to 2019 and after, there is acreage that is just fallowed because they don't have water to farm it. And that has a residual effect on the local community, on the overall agricultural community. And it's a real thing. So, I mean, we keep our finger on the pulse all the time trying to figure out, how can we deal with this? How to keep engaged with the conversation? And look, I mean, yeah, we are one of the largest water users, but we produce the food too. And that's what people forget, right? At the same time, we understand that the pot is limited, and we do have to figure out how to be better stewards of our water, how to share amongst everybody, make sure there is future growth, because that growth also is going to rely on us producing food and all of that. So, I mean, that is a keystone issue for us and has been for a while.
I think there's this sort of feeling out there that farmers are old world. They use old technology. They don't keep up with it. They're wasting water out there. Every single farmer I've ever met and interviewed spends so much money and time on trying to figure out ways to save water, not just because, hey, it's good for the earth to save water, we need to save water. It costs them so much money to waste water.
It's a significant input cost, right? And so anything we can do to save that water. Now, when they talk about conservation of water, we look at it a little differently as well. Yes, we need to conserve water, but we also feel that conservation is also found through efficiencies. So how far can we get a single drop of water to go? And so rather than your typical flood irrigation, if it's possible, we can use sprinklers. And now we have drip technology, and we're always pushing to see what we can do to get that drop of water to go further or save it for either either future crops or when it does get dry certain periods of time and we're not getting rain or the flow of water's not coming, we're constantly trying to be better stewards of that water.
How much more can we cut in Arizona and be okay?
That's a question that's hard to answer because while we a lot of times focus on the Colorado River, that is a big segment of our water portfolio, but it's only a third. Then you got to look at the Salt River system, which is a whole new system. And then you look at groundwater. And right now, the bigger conversation, while Colorado has been kind of leading conversation in the state, because I think it involves so many other states, and talking about rights and all of that.
It's also visual.
It
You
is.
can see that
you
water.
see the bath ring around Lake Mead, right? And that's the thing. Where groundwater is probably having just as significant conversations right now in the policy arena, but we can't see it, right? All we hear is in some of these areas, oh, wells are going dry. Okay, but we have to look at what that really means, right? And how those people were using those wells and what we can do to do that. So we also get to modeling of groundwater, which isn't very scientific. And there's some problems with that. So you have a more of a policy issue when you talk about groundwater. And then when you talk about Colorado River water, there is more, you can see the physical, depletion of that water and what are we doing to conserve it or use it better than we are.
So for someone who's not a water expert like our Steve Nielsen here, with the acreage, dropping significantly, what does that mean for us? Does our produce go up? Do those farmers move to a different state? What are the impacts that we see?
So right now, I mean, several different things drive our market, right? From a farming aspect. So a lot of the hay that's grown here, a lot of it gets to stay local and then it's put into our dairies, our feed yards, and feeding livestock. So far, Yuma hasn't been impacted significantly as far as water cuts from the Colorado, which they actually have more senior rights, like you were talking about, than the state of Arizona.
Yuma has more senior rights than the state does?
Yes, because of how, when all of that was laid out, because we moved that priority down because we got the big ditch, the CAP, which was a huge infrastructure project, right? And that really, took growth to Phoenix and to Tucson and all that areas. And so it was much needed, right? So as far as long-term effects, yes, over time, as we lose the ground, we lose the production, you could certainly see costs go up because we're going to have to transport food in from other states, hopefully not other countries, but other states. And so it will have a greater long-term effect, but things like avian influenza or some of that other stuff is going to have a more immediate impact on our market than the water. I would say that while we're overly concerned and we are watching it and it could change at any minute, we are actively involved with the negotiations and around the table, and we feel confident that we'll come out in a good position.
Wonderful. I like that positivity right
Yes.
there. I mean,
Yes.
that's what we need more than anything. It's almost like you answered
our
that
mind.
question and knew what we wanted to talk about with avian influenza. Because I wanted to talk bird flu with you. Hickman Farms, of course, they're probably one of the biggest name farms in our state. Just lost, I think it was 3 million birds to bird flu.
A little more than that.
Little more
Six.
than 3 million.
Close to
It's
six.
6 million.
6, yeah.
Yeah.
Double it. And then I actually did a story at a bird sanctuary about 6 months ago. The owner of that sanctuary is just heartbroken. All of her birds they had to put down because one bird had bird flu.
Correct.
And all of the birds that she spent her life saving,
Yep.
they had to put down. So how huge is bird flu, not just for birds, but just sort of the cattle industry, the ranch industry, all of that as a whole in our state?
Thankfully, and I'm not sure that we fully understand it yet, but it seems that the virus has been able to transmit to dairy cattle. However, while the animal may exhibit symptoms of the flu, any production from them, while it does decrease, the milk is completely safe, and they pasteurize it
interesting.
anyway. So there's not yet that transmission through some of the food chain. Now, to be safe, We don't use the eggs once the farm has it and that kind of stuff, just to be overly abundantly cautious. And we want to provide a good quality product. So for the beef side of it, and then when you go to the ranching, it really hasn't transmitted to those type of cattle, those crossbred cattle. Why, we don't know. It does transmit very easily through avian species, chickens, other types of birds, and so that's the wild bird population does carry this virus, and so it is extremely heartbreaking what happened to the Hickmans. I think they're a tough family, and they're going to get through it. But I mean, they've been here 81 years and doing a phenomenal job, and they started from a backyard production to over 6 million birds. That's quite a story to tell.
Want to switch gears here a little bit because we just have to talk about this. Big story, obviously, nationally, immigration. The enforcement has sort of shifted in the last few months. We've seen it a ton on farms. We've seen it on the hotel industry, construction jobs, things like that. Then all of a sudden, a few days ago, there was a reprieve from it, and then it sort of restarted. A lot of the reporting is it's been back in the last day. I keep reading report after report with farmers saying that they are having the hardest time with workers right now. That people are just not showing up for work. They're terrified to go to work. Are we seeing that in Arizona specifically?
From what I know, that has not come across our desk yet. Our proximity to Mexico does, help that people can come up here and work and, return, occasionally if they need to. We are required to use e-verification, and so that's supposed to help curb that issue. The funny thing is I think there is a lot of hype around all of this, and frankly, we have been a border state, and the reality of what comes across that border is more than employees, and we do have a real problem, and I think this administration and Congress is taking it serious. And so when we have shortage of labor, I chuckle a little bit. I've been doing this for 20 years, and that since day one, labor has always been an issue. No matter the administration, no matter what their stances are, it has been a trouble to get employees to come and do this job. Not that it's not even entry level. It's a difficult job, and it's becoming more and more technologically advanced. So you're going to need more education now for just a guy to drive a tractor. It's very difficult.
I talked with a farmer this morning, and he was saying, yes, he's always had these issues, but he had 2 workers here on visas completely legally here, and he said they stopped showing up for work.
I think it's just a nerve-wracking situation.
He said they were just nervous. They weren't nervous about working the job. They were nervous about the drive to work and all of that.
Absolutely.
Is it just that energy out there right now?
My family was actually in the business, and we brought over H-2A workers back in the day. A great program. We had families that worked for us for generations. And when those first immigrants came and they worked for us, they had that nerve too. They never went into town. We, supplied groceries and clothes for them, anything we needed, and we said, they had the right to go to town, they just didn't want to. And I think that's what you're starting to see again, is those individuals, whether illegal or illegal, they are a little bit nervous and they don't want to get caught up in everything. But the ones that are here legally, if they have the the visas, if they're doing what they're supposed to, I really don't think they're going to be a problem. I think the national news likes to kind of trump that up per se. But, I really do think they're focused on what's the illegal side, because they're not going to make any headway on legal, people.
Interesting conversation. Patrick Bray, thanks for joining us here. Arizona Farm and Ranch Group.
Yep.
I feel like you're just all over the place. You're always working. You always got something going on.
That's true.
Tell me about your property.
So I run cattle out in the West Valley, about 120 mother cows, and then my family is in the farming business as well.
Doing it a while.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate you, Patrick. Thank you so much.